a melting ice cube on behalf of US taxpayers. Now that's just the first $20 billion. The second half of this deal was more recent and is expected to come from private investors and hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, banks, etc. Now, you have to ask, if you're a bank, you might be like, why do I have to do this? I don't want to do this. And the only reason they're willing to is because the US Treasury is guaranteeing the security of their money and some other perks I'll explain soon, but this is also why they want collateral, right? They want something to back the loan with. Because if Argentina defaults and it can't pay back the US, it's going to be the Treasury that gets hurt, and by extension, US taxpayers, which are kind of left holding that bag. So are taxpayers paying? Not initially, but if it turns out to be a bad investment, then yes. So then, why Argentina is the next question. Because if you think about it, there's arguably a lot of other countries around the world that could use this money. It's not just Argentina that needs help. The US might need it too. So first, let me just explain what the official story is of why Argentina, and then I'll get into some more interesting revelations. So here's the official story. According to the Treasury, this isn't what it looks like, right? It's not a bailout.
Not a bailout at all. There's no money being transferred. The ESF has never lost money. It's not going to lose money here.
It's being called a currency stabilization partnership, which is a fancy way of saying the US is helping Argentina stabilize its peso by buying it directly through the Exchange Stabilization Fund. Now, the person in charge of this plan is, of course, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, one of the smartest macro investors on Wall Street, because before joining the Treasury, he spent years running a hedge fund and managing billions of dollars for one of the most successful investors in history. Now, in his first month as Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent has been very loud about one specific thing, and that is that the United States has to take a bigger role in global markets again.
And he is committed to getting China out of Argentina. They're all over the place in Latin America.
He argues that after decades and decades of letting the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, the World Bank, and China dominate the funding of the developing world, the US needs to get back on track. In other words, he wants to slow down this chart right here. Remember this one? It's the chart that shows decades and decades of de-dollarization. So the goal is to defend the dollar's global role by helping allies stabilize their economies before China does it with the yuan, which we know will be backed by gold.